Hello, Soarkidz. My name is Stephen Johnston, and I'm a native English speaker based in the United States. I've taught children as young as 6 all the way to adults in their 70s and 80s. I spent the bulk of my time teaching middle school and high school English as a second language and English language arts. Recently, I've been a humanities teacher online at Brilliant Micro School. I believe reading is so important for young learners as their cognitive capacities are developing and neurons inside their brains are making important connections that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. I've always believed that moral education is integral to a child's educational development. When a reader opens up a short story or a novel, they are forced to take on the perspective of the characters, looking at the world from other points of view and understanding the struggles that other individuals go through. I believe all this helps develop empathy in the young learner, critical for moral development. Reading also teaches cause and effect, which relates directly to students' moral development as they understand their actions have consequences, not just for themselves, but for those around them. More than moral development, reading helps develop critical academic skills. First of all, it teaches analytical skills. Students develop analytical skills by applying literary terms like conflict, setting, plot, illusion, symbolism, foreshadowing, all these good things. All of these help students really start to tackle a big project. They learn how to break something down into smaller components in order to understand it better. Then students develop synthesis. How do all these parts fit together to create a whole? What is the overall theme of this story? And how might it relate to other stories as well as their own lives? Students learn vocabulary and how to develop vocabulary through context, which connects to something I think I really believe in. I believe that young learners' education through reading helps develop voice, that internal monologue inside their head, and that ability to imagine the world, to picture the world in their head. I always say you have to have a movie theater in your head when you're reading. And I think that's a really important skill to have because it teaches them to look at the world and at counterfactuals. How can they solve a problem? You don't have to be doomed because there's a problem in front of you. And I think reading really helps children develop that, along with critical thinking skills, students to develop their own sense of expression, which is critical when they are learning how to write. Better readers make better writers because students are developing strong voice, confident voice. Reading, therefore, dovetails into creativity. Reading a novel, students can develop their own artwork, their own ways to express themselves creatively. And in an online platform, it allows for the use of all kinds of digital art. And really, the sky's the limit when it comes to young learners and creativity. And a novel really stimulates that interest. In a nutshell, reading helps develop the full person. It shapes the way young learners think and feel and express themselves. And it gives them tools they'll use long after they leave the classroom, which is the whole purpose of education, right? A story I've taught with young adults that I think is effective and worked with students ages 12 to 15 is The Outsiders. I like this book because it has resonated with kids from very distinct backgrounds and economic situations. The story follows Ponyboy and Johnny as they are victims of the society in which they live, where wealthier kids look down on them and bully them because they're poor and come from a poor background. One thing students really like about this is the way Ponyboy lives with his brothers in a household where the parents are absent, or actually the parents have passed away due to a car accident. The two main characters, Ponyboy and Johnny, get involved in a murder from which they flee. And what you see is how the family worries and eventually reconciles with the younger child. The climax of the story occurs when a fight between the wealthier kids and the poor kids takes place. Johnny, the little boy who sacrificed himself and is on his deathbed, tells the other kids that fighting is no good. I taught this book in 3 very distinct cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds with students in South Texas, boarding students in China from very wealthy families, and in a native Inupiat village in northern Alaska. Kids related to it for different reasons. In South Texas and northern Alaska, they understood the close familiar relationships needing to come together to solve problems in the household. The kids in China, I think most of them growing up during the one-child policy or being affected by that policy, long to have those relationships with brothers and sisters. Of the four courses you mentioned, I would be open to teaching all of them. The on-book teacher and the core reading. I love reading with young adults, as you can tell, and opening up stories, newspapers, information about history, social science, exploration. I have a background in philosophy, and I took debate in high school, and I would be more than willing to help with that. And as far as writing goes, that's probably my strong point. Is I work closely with recent immigrants from Mexico to help them pass the state exams in order to get their high school diplomas. Thank you for this opportunity to get to know you a little bit. You get to know a little bit about me, and I hope you can tell I still have a passion for teaching, even though I'm retired. The itch to teach has not gone away.